I think the process is important. So grant writing in science is important. It's difficult because the numbers are so low and it's so hard to get funded, but at the same time, while it's a painstaking process, it makes sense to me. I mean, in any business or in industry, you have to show that you're going to use the money wisely and you've thought out through all the different options. So for me so far, I've really enjoyed the process because it's a process of thinking through in advance and looking at all the different outcomes that could come into play and whether or not so it keeps you responsible and it keeps you thinking very proactively about what's the best way to do your science. So I enjoy writing the grants and I think it's important. But at the same time, it's definitely difficult for a lot of scientists because money is becoming more scarce and this isn't a great time for the national budget in science. So that makes it difficult. So obviously I wouldn't want it if projections were, the norm for a long period of time, but I see why it's important. I think like most people, we find our inspiration or our excitement from all sorts of places. So, and while there's a couple things that are pretty fundamental to me, like medicine, math, music, you're always dabbling, right, in 100 different things, and that's very much the kind of these Generation X and Y is about, like exploring all sorts of things. So when I was at Oxford, I really started getting into the history of science, so reading all about all the early people in evolution, actually, like Darwin and Wallace, but also Hooker and Lyell and Malthus. And so I went through this really big period of just understanding the history of science, and that definitely inspired me and kind of made me think about a lot of the process in a very different way. I ended up writing a play about it because I got so into it. Lately, and then I go through these periods of just really loving fiction writers. There's tons of them that I like, so it's hard to say. Like Nick Hornby, I love. Alex Garland is great. It's actually hard to say. There's lots and lots of different writers that I enjoy. Frank Portman, King Dork, fantastic book. Just really good. Really good if you like music and you've ever fantasy banded. It's a great book. Go through my fiction periods as well. And then I think more like lately I've been reading a lot of the more nonfiction, because I'm starting a lab, I'm reading a lot of management books from the Harvard Business Review, which is excellent. And but like Malcolm Gladwell, both Blink and Tipping Point are really interesting for economics. You go through just different periods where different things become mini obsessions. And I'd say right now that another mini obsession, so I have many mini obsessions. Like right now, still back to music, but Rock Band is a mini obsession. I love it, and I've never. The one instrument I never played was drums, and I think it's just it's great for music literacy, and it's just great for, like I said, it's my own personal teacher, right? You're just like checking and you're going through you go through each song and you go from easy to medium to hard, and then you go through all the different, it's so fantastic. So I'm very, very close with my family, and I think that, if you have to look at the scope, look at at your life in general, and probably no one's had a greater impact on me than my family. Obviously, I'm close with them and I grew up with them, but that they're just tremendous people. That so my close family would be my sister, my mom, and my dad. Are all just wonderful people, really caring, and are so inspiring in so many ways. Just the way that they look at life. My mom is just one of these free spirits, and she's always that mom that on field trips in elementary school was the one everybody wanted to go in her car because Mrs. Betty was ridiculous, played the loud music, got the big food, she made it very fun. She's a very fun mom, and was very into us doing well in school, but in a way that made it that we wanted to do it. So she made it fun. So I enjoy what I do, and it's always been very hard. So you enjoy the hard work and you enjoy the payoffs, and she makes it fun. And my dad is just an incredibly resilient, strong, person who's always been the very responsible, caring person in my life. And I have a great deal of respect for him. And my sister, I was saying that before, she's definitely because she. My parents are great, but she was going through the whole process with me, so she was just one step ahead of me. In school, she was always teaching me in school. She was always just a tremendous influence. She was an incredible athlete, so she got, I was always trying to be a little bit like her, so she's wonderful. I was very young when I moved over. I was, 2 going on 3, so for me, the memories are pretty clouded. I don't really know but I think that there's a feeling of, you see your parents go through so much, and you see not just my parents, but my parents' generation going through so much of all of, our friends and family all transitioning and having to exodus from their home country where they've built an entire life for themselves and have to start over. So there's some, it's definitely, it makes you think like whatever, I mean, America's such a place of opportunity that nothing that I went through would even come close to what they, gone through in their lives. So I have tremendous respect for my parents and everyone in my parents' generation. And seeing my parents, like I said, they're really resilient, and not just resilient, but happy and grateful. I think that was one of the things that I get from them, is that, they were grateful for the time that they experienced in Iran. They're saddened for what's happened to the country and the people there now, but, they do what they can, but they're also excited about their new life. So they've always been really thankful for the opportunities America gave them and their children. And that's what I get from them, is the resilience and the appreciation for life and every opportunity that they have.